This production is done by Acute Media.
Welcome everybody. We are on episode 7, right?
Yeah.
7. We did 6-1 and a 6.
We have part A and part B.
Part B, kidogo we had to finish. But we're here. Proactive is the name of the show. Welcome everybody. My name is Timo, as usual. And with me, ndio ile pa tunajisema jina bana ni nini?
Okay, with Timo is LC Candy.
Oh, okay. Leo tumechange kidogo, tumesema leo tutaongeza the second name, LC Candy.
Yeah.
Okay. How's your week been?
My week has been amazing.
This week has been with a lot of things going on.
Yeah, a lot of things have happened. A lot of interesting things have happened.
Mali decided to trust their
I
army.
think it started on Sunday. Was it Sunday night, yeah? When Denis Okari...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, started on Sunday night. Then Monday, drama. Drama taken from Nairobi to Bomet to Kakamega to
I
Samburu.
know. Yani, people looking for... Like, that's how it's bad. Yani alikuwa mtu anaambiwa ati anaangalia kutoka kwa dirisha yake ni kama mse wa M-Pesa. That was just funny.
Imagine.
But that was interesting. People who you think that were good with the national government, now all of a sudden things have turned. The tables have turned.
That saying of revolution eating its own people.
It's all, you know, and everyone was quoting there.
Revolution.
They came for the Jews. I did not see. You had
yeah, I had it. They came for the Jews. They came for the Gentiles. You know, they came for the trade unionists. I did not.
I did not speak. And finally, when they came for me, there was no one to speak for me. I was just laughing.
I learned a lot by the way. These guys are intellectuals.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes I think, kwani mtu amekaa chini anatafuta quote ndio.
For sure, man. I saw them back, like these people are just Kenyans, just regular Kenyans as we are. Yani walikuwa wanasimama hadi kwa hiyo gari wakijaribu kustop a whole senator from being whisked away. But anyway, you saw Mali decided that they trust their military.
Yeah.
That was interesting for me.
25-year-old military, is Colonel Diao.
I think so. I didn't even get his name.
Yeah.
But that was interesting.
Yeah.
Just for the people of Mali to trust this guy. Mm-hmm. Do we know our head of military?
I don't know.
Do we trust him that much?
I just know that, of course, he reports to the cabinet secretary in charge of defense.
I know. Yeah. But I people will not like me when I say I agree with ECOWAS. But what ECOWAS did wrong was all of a sudden condemn that the whole process that happened with the coup in Mali. Mm-hmm. They condemned it like wakaikata. But
the African Union did the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a matter of condemning. They should give the solution, because every time these things happen and there's no visible structure of how things will play out, mm-hmm. They come with the condemning, but they don't help with the advisory part on how things will play out after this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this one has been an interesting week.
Yeah, it has.
So crazy.
Internationally and nationally.
I know.
But especially nationally.
I learned if I ever, if at any point in my life, which I don't think will happen, that I want to be a senator, I must make sure when I want to pass something at 4 a.m., I am in the parliament offices. So that they can't
that's not
arrest
how
me.
It's supposed to be. But yeah, I remember, was it 2 weeks ago when the Nairobi senator was saying that, he had to be in the Senate by 5 a.m.
By 5 a.m.
So that he could not get arrested.
He even got the car that was tailing him the whole time. He got the number plate.
No,
and he was just
that is not the Kenya that our founders wanted. That is not the spirit of the 2010 constitution. What is happening? Anyway, story for another day.
I mean,
BBI.
let's finish BBI. Man, we have to let's sacrifice and make sure that this report, people understand it.
Yeah.
Over the week, I asked guys, and people haven't read it, don't really care about it. There's that team that says, we won't read it because we won't pass it. And there's that team that is like, we don't have to read it. Whatever has been said, we will pass it because
so and so says we should pass it.
Yeah.
That argument usually just crushes my heart. Don't you have a mind? Why then did you go to school?
Why are you trusting
you can
just
read
one
and understand and internalize and even make your own recommendations.
That's why we are here. Every time we're trying to just break it down so people can understand it. So I mean, I got a lot of responses. They were like, everyone was like, thank you so much. I haven't read this, but I will go about it. But yeah, before we start, you know, this is my part where I quiz you every time on episodes on acute.co.ke, you know?
Yes.
So this week, I was looking at Hard Talk with Yahweh. Are you?
I've seen it. I've seen it on the website.
On the website.
Yeah.
But you haven't digged into it.
I haven't exactly had the time to.
Are you an IT? Like, do you have any interest with IT stuff?
No, not really.
Man, you need to listen to this guy. This guy is on another level. Like, and it doesn't even just come from a techie part where you just look at specifications and all. He questions even what industries are doing, like the corporate body, when they're releasing some things and when they're giving us as customers stuff.
Consumer.
Yeah, the consumer. Yeah, it's interesting. Wait, Hard Talk.
Okay.
This is, I don't know, week 3. I'm quizzing you. Next time unakuja kunipatia ile episode umesikiza. We you must.
Okay, fine.
Whether Wikithni or Windekni.
So the one that caught my attention was Zack and Mel. Is it the one that they discuss hip hop?
Okay. I see what you're doing there. Finally, you listen to Zack and Mel. This is nice.
It caught my attention. I didn't really listen to it, so much. But, that is something that I intend to listen to because, I'm not much of a hip hop person. But, hey, I could try it out and see whether I like it.
I'm excited. My work is done here. I finally get Elsie to listen to Zack and Mel. What else do I need to do, Yadi? This is progress, but anyway, acute.co.ke. On all platforms, we are there. You can check it. Acute Media. We use the profile of Acute Media, right, my producer? Yeah. So I haven't got it wrong. On all platforms, you can check it out. Today we're talking about ethnic antagonism and competition. I mean, this one has been there from...
This is a topic that is very sensitive.
I know.
In the whole of Kenya.
Very sensitive.
It is very sensitive, yeah? It even informs our constitution. Yeah.
And we have to be...
Because, that is our history. It is where we are coming from.
Yeah.
Out there, when people think about Kenya, they know that, one of Kenya's main issues, other than corruption, of course, is tribalism, ethnic antagonism, and competition. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, this is those sensitive ones. We'll have to proceed with all caution and just make sure that, because, we're coming from, some dominant tribes, the two of us.
Yeah.
And we are always on the front line when it comes to this tribalism.
Exactly.
And we have to be careful because at times we even forget the rest of the other tribes that
there
are
other
around
tribes.
That there are other tribes. When everyone talks about tribalism, first
people
target
think about
is me and you.
Yeah, they don't think about the other tribes.
Yeah. So we're gonna check out. Let me just read what the president and brother Raila are saying on the press report that they released. Kenya is witnessing a continued deterioration of relationships between ethnic communities and political formations. These relationships are too often characterized by aggressive antagonism and competition. A strong nation cannot develop in this way. His Excellency, the President, and Raila Odinga are standing together to urge every Kenyan, every political leader and formation to compete without using ethnic profiling or by promoting disdain for any group. I don't read the second part, but let me just do this one for today. It was a bit interesting. The two leaders respect one another. They have been competitors and even used hard language at times, but they have always been friends and respected one another. That's my favorite part. They respect each other as individuals and as leaders. Sazile si tunachapana, eh?
Exactly. Please, let's tell them.
They respect each other's communities. They respect Kenyans. Interesting. And they respect our nation. Every single Kenyan knows and needs respect. Respect should not mean that we tolerate what is wrong. However, the two leaders want to say to all Kenyans, the sins of individuals should not be visited on groups. We must reject and censor anyone who conducts themselves in a negative and hateful way. Now, I like that they started from a point wamejipea sifa hapo, you know, how they respect each other. And I don't know how Kenyans don't see that part. Pali tunakaga tukiambiwa hii kitu, watu wanapigana na watu hawapigani, wako mahali wanakunywa chai wanangojea tuchapane sisi alafu ndio wakuje. I don't know what you have to say with that press release that they had on the pillar. What do you think about what I just said? Before we even get into the chapter itself and what it's tackling and the recommendations. What do you think about what I just said?
I think what they're saying may be true to some extent. I don't know about respecting each other's communities, but I know about the fact that these people are friends behind the curtains.
Yeah.
These people are friends. They have a history. Some of them are even business partners. And so the joke is always on us as the Kenyans when we are fighting our neighbors, our colleagues at work, our classmates at school, our schoolmates, our, people who surround us, people who will be there to help us directly if we need help, in the name of you are tribe A and I am tribe B, so we don't mix, so I hate you, so I will do this and this against you. While behind the scenes, in that high office, people are drinking tea together.
You've seen how...
So the joke is always on us, and that is such an unfortunate event.
You've seen how they've tried to sugarcoat the times that they've used hard language.
By the way. And we have seen it.
And we have seen it.
I have even been in their presence as they're doing this thing, political rallies.
In political, like allowing the people that they are affiliated to in their party to use such languages and allow themselves to really insult the other ethnic, other tribes.
Ethnic groups.
And now they come and sugarcoat it and make it look at times we have used hard language. Try to make it sound nice, and we know for sure what they have done in the past.
That hard language has had, negative effects in the country. We have felt them as the ordinary Kenyans.
92, 97, we felt it. I mean, and then the biggest one that was made so public was 07, 08 with everything that went down. So they can't just come and try and sugarcoat this thing.
At times we have used hard language. How about they just, fine, they're acknowledging that they've done so, but why don't they just come forth and say, Kenyans, we are sorry?
Yeah, for the language that we have used. And
rather than telling us, sasa mnataka nifanye nini, come tell us enyewe, nilisema hivi na hivi, and I was wrong. I think that is something you can consider demanding, before the referendum. Before referendum, you guys...
And allowing
how about
some
you
individuals.
Start by apologizing,
I think
acknowledging you're wrong publicly and apologizing to Kenyans for your words.
You ever seen how their parties like having discipline committees, but there is never anyone who's being disciplined when he's towing the line of the party but insulting the others?
Yeah.
That's an issue for me, because you're allowing this person to create an ethnicity, create this problem that is already boiling on its own, and anakuja anaongezea sijui kitu ingine ndio ilipuke kabisa, and you stand there in that rally and allow this guy to say such a thing, and when it's your time to speak, you don't even rebuke what he just said. You make sure that it just continues in that mood. That one has always been offensive for me, because I know that time everyone had an issue with Kikuyus, and the other side, everyone had an issue with Luos, and it became really bad, where I didn't like the fact that people would look at each other from a different angle, and yet they had lived as neighbors all their lives.
Yeah.
That was really tough for me. I mean, the pictures that came out during that period was a bit tough, really tough for me to...
I was so young back then. I was in class 5.
Oh, man.
Around 10 years old.
Wacha kuniaibisha na miaka yangu manze.
No, but you see, as a young child then, my sister and I, and of course my brother, that's when you get to know, hey, you are a Luo. And hey, your classmate, your neighbor, my childhood friends, they are mostly... In fact, that is the time when I became aware that, by the way, I am a Luo surrounded by many Kikuyus. As I play, when I go to school, that is when I noticed it.
And even
I never used to notice. But you see,
no one is
now as a kid, now I became aware of the fact that there are tribes, and now that so and so is now in power, it means this tribe is in power and we are there, we are not in power. So, you even started looking at politics from a tribal perspective.
It was so bad. I remember because I was studying somewhere in Central, in a boarding school, and we had people from the Luo community, like a lot of them. But during that period, like majority of them switched schools, and it happened vice versa. Even for guys who were in Nyanza and were studying at Maseno, they had to switch schools and now look for a different school. And you're in Maseno, a great school,
a national school. Yeah.
I mean, we can't even start talking about the national school part of it. Maseno was amazing. Sports, studies, like it's the best. And then you have to move, not because of anything else, but just because you're not safe. That was really painful for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know even where my friends went to. I don't know which school they shifted to. It happened. And just because I'm young and I don't know what's, like, I couldn't completely understand. I can see it and know what's happening, but I don't know the impact itself and how far it is. That was really tough for me later on, figuring out what just happened around me.
Yeah.
And this guy is coming here and trying to make it sound like sweet. At times tumeambiana vibaya, lakini
hey,
spare me. We know for sure, but we also have to caution the people themselves. I mean, anyway, let's go into it, your statement, your press statement, they really need to redo it. We are not satisfied with what they said. Do we go direct into the recommendations that they have? I just address some of the things that they have said.
You can address some of those things, then we discuss the recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So one is if we do not find a better way to manage our diversity, particularly in the competition for power, then it will be our collective ruin. Competition for resources, recognition, and power are inevitable and even natural where human beings are concerned. Kenya is an African country made up of multiple ancient nations that were often defined along linguistic and ethnic lines. One end, further, just defining it also, coming of modern states as a colonial enterprise which was racially defined and placed in opposition to African nations led to the recruitment of ethnic divisions and manipulation as a tool for the exploitation.
So what they're trying to tell us is that ethnicity is a problem. This ethnic division started from the days of colonialism. However, at that time it was racial.
Yeah, it was
and I think
really
from
racial.
the history we remember, there was a way in which whenever they'd even go to the legislative council, the number of seats for the colonialists, the white people, for the Asians, then for the Africans.
It was basically divide and conquer.
Yeah.
All right. An ethnically driven politics ends with a winner-take-all model contradicts political and cultural cultures in Kenya that have lasted for much longer than we have been Kenyans. It does not offer us the capable leaders who will offer a strong vision and rally us to implement national visions that uplift us. I'm getting lost somewhere in these statements that they're making. But they're basically saying that the politics that we have shouldn't be what we have right now.
Yeah, actually, they're blaming it on our electoral system. So the Kenyan electoral system is it's known as first past the post stroke winner takes it all. So what happens is that we vote, and the one with the highest number of votes is automatically in power. Is automatically let me just say it as it is automatically the president. So they believe that is one thing, that system of elections, because there are countries that have employed other systems of elections that allow for inclusivity, that allow for representation, a much broader representation of the diversity of the country. But then the one that we have in Kenya is a winner takes it all, and I think that is something that the BI intends to change.
Okay. Do you think that's what drives this whole madness that we see with Luya unity?
Yes,
Mount Kenya politics.
I agree with them.
Okay.
It's true, because now you see, when you think about elections, even right now, we are in the year of 2020. Elections are in 2022, then the next elections 2027. So we already know as early as now that the main competition, I don't even want to pretend that I may be wrong, but we will, from what's been happening,
Yeah.
we can tell that the competition is between, the current deputy president and of course the retired prime minister. The retired
Yet
prime
they haven't
former-
even declared it.
Yeah, they haven't declared it. IEBC has not, invited them to tender their applications.
sure.
Yeah, but we
Sure.
already know. But then now Kenyans are looking at it from the perspective of, will Raila win? Okay, yes, he might win. Because he'll get the majority of votes. Why will he get the majority of votes? I'm not saying that he will win. I'm saying now how Kenyans are reasoning.
Yeah.
How will he get the majority of votes? First
Every
of all,
political
all
expert is trying to
Luos
break it
will-
down, yeah.
all Luos will vote for him. And right now he has the support of the president. So that means the Kikuyu votes are also with him. So you see, we're looking at it from a
Regional
from an,
point.
Yeah, from an ethnic angle rather
Yeah.
than from
nimeanza kusugarcoat tena.
yeah, rather than his policies are good and what his manifesto, he has good plans for Kenya. No, we are looking at it from atashindaje. Where will he get the majority of votes? So the question is majority of votes.
Where will
they come from? We know that based on last year's census, we know that they ranked the tribes, from the population, so that the Kikuyus are number 1, I think, in terms of population. That is, I think Luos, we fell at number 4, and we were like,
How?
wait, what? How?
So true.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
we know that, if Raila brings, either Mudavadi or Wetangula, but maybe Mudavadi on board, it means that, he's bagged some Luya votes. Yeah.
There's a whole madness going on from tribal lines.
Yeah. So, that's the unfortunate state of events.
Yeah. I mean, they even say the problem is not unique to Kenya. Tribalism is present in our entire region and all over the world. Tribalism as a form of competition and antagonism does not just belong to ethnic groups. There are different forms of tribal attachment that are equally, if not more, destructive. What matters is the amount of cultural, social, and political innovation that a country can produce to build itself structures that minimize group antagonism. That one I don't even disagree at any point. One of the major ways we can escape the trap of ethnicized political competition is to more deeply integrate with our neighboring countries and to achieve the political federation that is the ultimate objective of the East African community. Deeper integration at the political level will lead to today's ethnic politics being swallowed by much larger populations, so that any group, this is just a mouthful. Okay, they're just telling us to integrate as an East African community.
And that is something that's a plan that's already underway. Allow me to expound more.
Okay, expound more. Yeah, I just, I gave you a blank face at you. What?
It's a plan. The East African Political Federation is a plan, by the way. That is actually my dissertation. Yeah, it is the legal challenges impeding the political federation of the East African community.
Okay.
So as you already know, Kenya is already a member. Kenya is a strong member of the East African community. Actually, Kenya's foreign policy states that the East African community is our favorite, to some extent, it is our favorite regional economic community, because we belong to other regional economic communities like COMESA. We belong to IGAD. We belong to another one known as Great Lakes. And the African Economic Community. But East African community is particularly our favorite.
Comes number 1.
Yeah, so East African community is what now the West Africans have as ECOWAS. It's an economic bloc, And of course it had its plans, it's established by the East African Community Treaty. Yeah, and it has 4 stages of integration. It proposes 4 stages of integration that are to happen one after the other. So the first one was customs union. So customs union, basically elimination of trade barriers amongst the countries that make up the East African community, which are actually 6. When they started, they were just 3, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. But now we have South Sudan, Burundi, and Rwanda on board.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first was the customs union, then common market. So common market was to allow free movement of people, goods, capital, labor. So, you Timo, if you get a job in Tanzania, you should be free to go and work. Again, there are issues. Of course, it's not a perfect institution.
For sure.
There are very many issues amongst the states.
Okay.
Then the third stage of integration is the monetary union, whereby we share currency, or at least we have the same the exchange rate between the currencies of
Is
the
the
three
same.
countries is the same.
Okay.
So
Are we-
again,
are we getting
no,
to a point
no,
where-
I don't know. We're not yet there. I don't even know what they're doing about
I
that.
even thought that there'll be a point where we'll be using the same currency.
Yeah, that is what's supposed to happen. That's the third stage of integration.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and that's something the East African community is working on as an institution.
All
Then the
right.
final stage of integration is the political. The treaty actually calls it the ultimate stage of integration. It is the political federation of the East African community, whereby the countries Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, South Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, we become one country.
What?
We become one country. So we lose our sovereignty as Kenya. They lose their sovereignty as Uganda. They lose their sovereignty as South Sudan. And together we are one country, the East African community.
This is vision what?
We have our flag. We have our currency. So you're no longer, yes, you are a Kenyan, but you're an East African. Actually, that's why the passports.
Yeah.
I almost carried mine.
I
I don't know. Their passport is the latest. It's East African
Yeah,
community.
everyone has it.
Not everyone. People still have the old
Uko
one.
na dark blue bado ukifanya nini?
There are people who still have the old one. But that is why, even our passports now look alike.
Yeah, and they look good. Even the
yeah.
chip at the front makes it look.
Yeah. So that's a plan under the political federation. So now, again, the basis of my fourth year research, my dissertation.
You don't know how excited I am. Like, we'll actually discuss it at some point on one of these episodes.
Yeah. So I've been researching on the challenges as to why we are not yet there yet, based when they came up with this East African community, when they actually revived, because it was there, then it collapsed. Then
Yeah.
they revived it sometime in 1999. The vision of the leaders back then was that we would already be a political federation by now, but we are not yet there. So what I've been researching on are the legal challenges, and of course, these legal challenges, the East African community is aware of these legal challenges,
Okay.
and so for that reason, they decided to come up with a transitional model to the federation. Now they came up with a confederation. So
Okay.
the difference between a confederation and a federation is that at federation level, countries lose their sovereignty. So you've lost your sovereignty.
Now you are one
Then
country.
You're one country under
With
one
different
president.
states, probably.
But the people have been saying this thing has been rumored to be a Museveni project. I'm calling it rumors because it's not proven.
Okay.
Only that, again, Museveni is the most experienced president of all presidents. So he's likely to be the one to.
Nah.
But anyway, we'll cross the bridge when we get there.
Look, we have preluded to our next show too much. I mean, we don't even know which episode it will be. Let's talk about the recommendations before we lose our. But that's so interesting.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is what they're talking about when they talk about the political federation, that fastening the process of the political federation. That way, a political federation will expose us as Kenyans to other tribes from other countries. We'll get to know more about the Acholi, the Karamajong, the Shiluk of South Sudan, these ones of Tanzania.
I have no clue what they're called.
I'm trying to remember the tribes
I have
of my
so many
friends from
friends
Tanzania.
I know, even me, I have so many friends in there, and
The
all of a sudden, they'll all of a sudden fight me.
Yeah. So, Tanzania, I think, has more tribes than Kenya.
Tanzania
Uganda
iko na
has
Wamasai.
tribes. South Sudan also has tribes. Among the South Sudanese, Shiluk, Anwar, Nuer. We have
You're very conversant with the South Sudan ones.
history, Yeah.
Okay.
And, Rwanda, Burundi, Hutu, Tutsi. So,
Yeah.
you see, when we are exposed, when the political federation is established, as Kenyans, we'll be exposed to other tribes. And we'll stop looking at politics from a tribal perspective.
Manze.
But I'm thinking,
Here, home.
won't we now start looking at politics from
On a bigger scope.
like
I really
Kenya,
wanted
like when you think about the president of the political federation, I trust till this time it was Museveni, next it should be Kagame. There's no way it can go back to BCJ now wants to come up as the we're like, apana, Ugandans, you've already had it. Now it has to come to
Tumerudi
Kenya.
episode yenye hatufai kukua. Let's go back home. Let's first work with home before we integrate and become that whole community. But I
Okay.
agree with you.
That is what they mean when they are proposing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, but let's tackle what we have right now. You've gone and integrated even the whole community. When here home, me even dating a Luo chick is about to be a big issue, manze. Like,
You're
look
dating
at
a
it.
Luo?
Yeah.
How is that?
Haya, ona sasa all of a sudden sasa tuna change topic.
No, as in I just want
Yeah,
to know
I
because
really wanted to show from the political side.
I'm sure you've
sawa.
been getting okay, so mtakuwa mna survive aje politically,
know. let's not go there. Let's talk about recommendation. I see where you're going with this one.
Yeah.
You know? And can we do the show?
Yeah, let's do the show.
So let's talk about recommendations. We have like 5 of them to tackle along the way. Our 6. So surely, Elsie. Did you have to go there? All right. So, number 1, build and strengthen the ties that bind us. The task force recommends that throughout the education and sustained civic education for non-students, Kenyans be exposed and incentivized to respect ethnic and religious diversity, and for this principle to be reflected in the public service. They're saying curriculum. They're saying in
that in the education system, they should be able to teach the children, and of course the high school students, they should be able to teach them to appreciate the diversity of Kenya, the diversity of the cultures. Yeah.
Which is
and
a solid
respect,
one.
to respect and appreciate, because appreciating is one thing, but you also have to respect it and not allow it to become a tool of division.
It's true. I liked how
so education
the selection was changed, and they decided now that me being in Nairobi, I can go to a national school in Mombasa, I can go to a national school in Kisii or somewhere.
Yeah.
Like kids were sent all over the world, yani.
All over
Kenya, sorry.
all corners of Kenya.
And it was pretty fun. I mean, I remember my cousin was being sent to, I can't remember the national school, but it was in Nyanza. And we were just laughing because the first...
Is it Maranda?
I think... No. She's a lady.
Oh.
And the first criteria was like she had to shave her hair.
Hey, that sounds like...
I don't know which school it was. But she was willing and ready.
Asumbi?
I can't remember the name for sure. It was a while back. This is those ones like you just remember.
And how did she take it?
She was ready.
She was excited.
She was really willing to go, and she was like, I am ready to go. You just give me and she had cool parents because they would pay for the flight and come back. But the mom was like, you're not going anywhere. Wewe, unabaki hapa. Hadi akatafutiwa shule. So
akatafutiwa shule around.
So the young ones are already we're ready to integrate and just be at one with all other regions, but we can see it from our elders. So wazazi wetu, man, they're still trying to hold on to these things when we have released them as the youth.
So they do it out of love,
for sure,
and of course based on history.
Yeah.
So based on the history, your auntie probably thought, hey, my girl, you won't be safe. Go, apana, just stay here. And
so how do we break these barriers? If the curriculum shouldn't allow, if you have been selected to a certain school, you shouldn't be allowed to switch to a different one.
But sometimes a parent can't afford to have the child go that far. Actually, I've seen cases whereby people have been called to national schools. From the village, you've been called to Nairobi, but your parent can't afford the fare, the fee, and of that national school in Nairobi. So your parent will rather keep you in a local secondary school and say, the education system is the same. You'll just succeed anyway.
So there are a lot of things also that need to be worked on in the process.
It's quite complicated.
I agree. It's a tough one, but I think we are on the right track to some extent. I mean, some are a bit hard to tackle because of finances, the blocks, but I like that from the young kids themselves, they are willing to go that far and just enjoy this whole new culture and new people.
So that's for that reason the BBI proposes that public boarding secondary schools should admit students, 50% of students from outside the county.
Yeah.
So if a national school is, for example, in Kakamega County, 50% of its population should be from the rest of Kenya.
Yeah.
So 50% might be from the rest of the country. That's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, the other pillars, and this is the point I've been saying, Elsie. Some things they're adding on this recommendations. I think they were just filling up this document. When you just say align the national museums of Kenya to this mission, what does that mean? Did you understand it?
Well, what is a museum? A museum is supposed to show
But the museum has been doing it. Go to the museum. It's not like centered on a specific people. And that's why some things...
I've been to the National Museum.
You've seen, like, they really covered, like, the history of Kenya and all the tribes. Go to Joseph Murumbi Center. As much as it covers a certain person and his collections, it shows that he was diverse in what he was collecting. Go to the Kenya National Archives, you'll find that it covers certain people, but it's not. Some documents, some statements, when they need to break them down and we understand what they're saying. How are you going to say part A and B and break it down properly, and then you come to part C and say align the national museums of Kenya to this mission?
What about D?
Promote and support inclusive cultural centers in every country, in every county. And I think we talked about this
cultural centers.
Yeah. No, we tackled a different kind of thing, because I was talking about festivals in different counties last week when we were talking about national ethos. I don't know. Cultural centers should be there already in every county.
What is a cultural center? What does it do?
I thought it was something like Bomas of Kenya. Is it the case?
If that's the case, then it will make sense.
Yeah, because I thought, I don't know. And that's why
it's quite vague.
It's vague. That's why I have been fighting with this document. At points, they are really crucial with what they say.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they become vague with their statements. And they need to just leave. If you have something that is really detailed, leave it at that. Wacha kuongezea hizi zingine unaanza kuconfuse mtu.
Yeah.
The first two una make a lot of sense. Then the last part, everyone is looking at it like, now what are you trying to say? What are you trying to imply? All right, do away with this one we will
recommendation.
do away with winner take all model for the presidency and opt for more concessional what is this they're trying to say? Okay, model that works best for ethnically divided societies. Should I break it down what they say?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought this one was your part. I knew for sure you are ready to tackle this one.
I think I discussed it a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
I'm actually trying to understand the meaning of consociationalism.
Yeah.
Political scientists define a consociational state as one which has major internal divisions along ethnic, religious, or linguistic lines, with none of the divisions large enough to form a majority group.
So basically they're saying we do away with winner take all model for the presidency, opt for this
a more inclusive
one.
Yeah, so there are political systems in the world that
where the executive is like a face of the whole
face
country.
Of the country, yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Which countries are this? I need to go study on these countries.
I think India.
India does this. I talked about on episode 2 on something to do with how the Dutch cover their things. The Dutch is really integrated. Like their parties, as much as they will cover certain ideals that they have in their country itself, the president usually has to come together and form a ruling party out of all these regions that have different ideals. And it's called the polder model. Polder model meaning like it's because they're known to be experts on land reclamation. And so they get all these other parties and they say, for the sake of the Dutch, we will work together. Like it's a thing they say in their country, for the sake of the Dutch.
Yeah.
He will make sure that he has to work with all these other all these other parties that are in the parliament and work and find a way to form a ruling coalition during that period. There are some that will disagree, and I think usually now they fall to the opposition to also keep these guys accountable. It was an article on the Washington Post, I think, or the New York Times, one of the two. I was just reading on it. I like how they do, and that's why you'll see like this guy is very humble. The Dutch president guy goes to the office riding a bike, and I remember the French president went to at that time it was Sarkozy, went to see him, and they rode a bike to the office, and everyone was like, hiya, what's about to happen here? And his office is not even in the main capital. It's just somewhere where his constituents is, which is really interesting for me. If that's what they mean, then that makes a lot of sense when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But we knew that he had won, but he has to work because he doesn't have that majority still in the parliament. So he has to work with all of them, Mwishoe, to form something that is the ruling coalition.
Yeah.
Which makes sense for me.
Yeah,
what is this one trying to say?
So I had mentioned it earlier on when we began that the BBI proposes that we do away with the winner takes it all, and I think I explained how winner takes it all is working, the way when we are thinking about elections, you're thinking, how will this one win? Atapata votes wapi from this tribe and that tribe and that tribe. So we want to do away with that system of elections. That way, when there's political competition, as Kenyans, we will not look at it from the tribal.
This is what they were saying, wakisema several posts will be made in the process. Ama, how do they tackle it? You see, they've made it clear there's an issue how we do things, but now...
So now, actually, the BBI is not clear now, at least not on this part. Maybe, I don't know, maybe another pillar we might... on the next pillar, we might find something.
Okay, that will
but
work
here,
out on
they've
it.
not given a proposal of what is inclusive, what type... Because there are different types of elections, of electoral systems that are inclusive. There are different types.
Yeah.
But what they're clear on is that we have to do away with this first past the post system.
We tackled that
Winner
one.
will no longer take it all.
Yeah.
Winner will take it together with other people.
And winner will have to work out in such a way that we tackle all of us the same process that we are in.
Yeah.
My producer is such a clown, Yani.
So we go to the next.
Yeah. So
making resource distribution to be fair and felt to be fair.
Okay.
Resource distribution, including revenue allocation.
Oh my.
See where I'm going?
I see where you're going. Okay, we can mention. See at Nimbaya.
That every group, every ethnic group must get a fair share of the national cake.
A fair share of
Fair
the
share,
national cake.
the national cake, not the crumbs.
Not the crumbs.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened before we started the show? We like talking about what's happening in the week, and this one is just going to tackle what's been going on the whole week with how the revenue allocation.
Yeah.
The CRA comes, shows
Makes
us
a recommendation in accordance with Article 217 of the Constitution.
and now. And the CRA are experts on this. They have actually
experts. They have
studied these things
researched.
and researched. And they go and make recommendations. And
but
then,
their recommendations have to be approved by the Senate for the recommendations to have force of law. And so once their recommendations get to the Senate is free to make amendments as it deems fit. And so we see the Senate now comes, a few experts now. I mean, we have moved from a whole committee of experts to a few experts and a few noisemakers. And now they are to decide how things should go about. And this one, imenikasirisha hii wiki. I mean, I think the fact that there should be a fair share is good. Yeah.
But now we are only fighting with part one of that statement, a fair share, and we're forgetting of what? Because now, budget this year was a 3 trillion budget. These people are only being given 316 billion to work with out of a 3 trillion budget. It's not normal. It doesn't make sense. It's not a fair share for me. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but I don't feel like when it comes to counties, they're actually being given enough to work with. There should be more that they should work with, other than this fight of a fair share for 316 billion, which is not a fair share of what the national budget looks like. I feel like you're about to drop some knowledge.
It can't really be fair as we want.
Mbona basi tunaandika fair
Actually,
kwa hiyo
the
statement?
Constitution does not even call it fair. The Constitution under Article 201, which is the principle of public finance, because what we're fighting about, what the Senate is fighting about is actually public finance. So it has to be guided by Chapter 12 of the Constitution of Kenya. So under Article 201, the Constitution is clear on one of the principles of public finance is that revenue raised nationally shall be shared equitably. Note the word equitable, not fair.
Not fair.
Equitable,
Okay.
not fair, among national and county governments. So what does equitable mean? That is what the Senate should be questioning. What does equitable mean? Does it mean the people or the landmass?
The landmass. That's where this conversation now starts from.
Yes.
Okay. It makes sense. But this one is those ones. I don't know what to say about it.
It's quite complicated because the next principle under Article 201 is that expenditure, that is the spending of this public finance, has to be the kind that promotes the equitable development of the country, including by making special provision for marginalized groups and areas.
Which you have been fighting for. It has not yet even been...
Yes. So now that's why the same constitution establishes the Equalization Fund under Article 204, which is a fund, I think we mentioned it episode 3, 4?
Somewhere there.
We mentioned it, yeah. I think I kind of explained.
Musikize episodes ndio mjue hata mtuambie.
So Equalization Fund was established to cushion these marginalized areas and to help them to come up. And it's just specifically for these marginalized groups and areas. But it's not yet been operationalized. It is just in the constitution. It has not been reduced from writing to
something that
to a fund that actually exists.
Who should be
blamed for this?
Yeah. I didn't want to say blame, but I wanted to say who should be providing this.
Providing.
Yeah, the national government.
Yeah, the national government. Actually, it is the national government, specifically the Ministry of the Treasury, the Ministry of Finance. What they should do is when they receive all the funds, I think from KRA, the revenue raised nationally, is that they decide this is how we are going to spend as they are budgeting, because what happens is the budgeting. They have to allocate a specific amount, amount of the money that should go towards the equalization fund.
Interesting.
Yes.
So we should have a beef with the Treasury right now.
Yeah.
With what? Interesting.
The Treasury, but also other arms of the government, such as Parliament. It is Parliament, it is the legislature, that is both the National Assembly and the Senate, that should be pushing for the establishment of this equalization fund. Because 10 years later, we can't see the equalization fund and...
We're still in that space. I mean, part 2 of this statement, do you actually agree with it? I mean, we can make distribution to be fair. Do you feel like it will be felt to be fair? Do you feel like Kenyans will ever get to a point where it will?
No, not of course not. There are people, I think I read a tweet from Professor Makau Mutua a week or 2 weeks ago, and he was saying that, he once interacted with a lady from, I think, Wajir, Mandera, one of those areas, and that lady was actually told him that, this is not really Kenya, because Kenya is the Nairobi and the highly developed counties.
Yeah. And it's not just Makau Mutua who has experienced this. Like, a lot of people also have actually said that, like, there are places where when you leave and you say you're coming to Nairobi, now they say you're coming to Kenya.
Unaenda Kenya.
Kenya.
These other places are still part of Kenya. So from Article 204 that establishes the Equalization Fund, it states that, let me just read it as it is. There's established an Equalization Fund into which shall be paid 1.5% of all the revenue collected by the national government each year, calculated on the basis of the most recent audited accounts of revenue received as approved by the National Assembly. So what does this mean? That the failure to establish the Equalization Fund is on the National Assembly because they've not been pushing for it. But it also goes back to the Ministry of the Treasury, because 0.5% of all the revenue raised nationally should be going towards that equalization.
The revenue yetu inaenda kulipa madeni.
Yeah.
Tough one,
but at least the BBI acknowledges, and that's what it recommends.
Let's go to the next one, which is my worst out of all these recommendations. Baraza la Washauri. President, as a symbol of national unity, should benefit from the private advice of eminent experience and honorable citizens serving in a council of advisors.
On an unsalaried basis.
I know you like the part of on an unsalaried basis, but look, give me eminent experience and honorable citizens. Tuende kazi.
Reverend Timothy Njoya.
Okay, fine. Give me eminent experience and honorable citizens who do not have any political affiliations in any way. Have not been in any political...
I don't really... Patrick Lumumba, maybe?
Yellow. Who would you put as a council of advisors that you would listen to their advice and Kenyans would stop and listen to his advice?
Yellow still.
Really?
Yeah.
Individuals, specific individuals. I want you to get from that point where on a national point I can stand up and say something and everyone would listen to me.
I don't know.
You know how
because in Kenya, the people that we know and the people that we revere so much, the people who are very influential are the people in the political class. So you either have to be inside the political class or you have to be related to the political class.
Exactly. And so baraza la washauri, I'd rather even be paying people who I can trust when they speak do not have any affiliation whatsoever in any way. You know, like when they stand up and say something, itawasikiza. Mbona utoi joke tena ya Denis Okari?
Denis Okari. Okay, baraza la washauri na sound like for old people, but Denis Okari is still quite young, so.
You know, we have already... Look, Council of Advisors already imeshaekwa a connotation that it has to be some old guys who feel like they know everything. Yet
experienced and honorable citizens.
Experienced and honorable. Yet these old guys have the worst... Like, they're the ones who have been showing us like, we really can't side with these people and with what they are doing and how they are thinking through stuff. And that part, recommendation number 68 should just be removed completely. I don't see any...
So in your opinion, we don't need a council of advisors for the president?
Look, you carry the constitution and you see like the kind of knowledge it has and the kind of experienced people that sat down and wrote this thing for the benefit of this country. What more do we need, surely? What more advice does he need?
Okay, he doesn't really need.
The constitution itself is advice enough
but
on how to go about things.
Of course, he needs people to keep him in check, but we already have the National Assembly and the judiciary to keep him on check, in one way or another.
Exactly. Set up by the constitution.
Now these ones will only just be giving advice. Hi, President, we feel you did this wrong. How about you do this way? He can decide whether or not to follow their advice. How about,
hi, President, the constitution says this is wrong, so you can't
do this. So that is why we have the legislature and the judiciary. And then again, the constitution that, reveres the system of checks and balances.
I agree. Number 2, who decides this council of advisors? The president will put everyone he feels like would be on his side.
So that's also where a failure on the part of the task force. They did not tell us, okay, so who's going to constitute this council of advisors? How are they going to be picked? Who's gonna pick them?
Yeah. And like put seriously what their work is, because I don't feel like advising the president should be their only job.
Non-salaried.
You're always on this non-salaried. Like I don't care. I would even pay them. Like I would even be giving them allowances.
Pay them to give advice.
That's the thing. What advice are they giving that is different from what we already
what the
have?
law already provides? Yeah, I get it.
And there are people like all around who do keep him in check when he's trying to do things wrong. Yeah. And the constitution is enough to show us and make sure that this guy is in check. We should defend this constitution like it's our own. By the time he's looking for council of advisors, first and foremost, he went to the constitution to see what it says. So me, 68, let's just do away with it. Baraza la washauri is just another game tunachezewa hapa. Right, we have like 7 minutes to tackle 2 other big ones. But I like when you talked about accelerating regional integration, we actually tackled it and we
did.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, at some point when we become one community, I look forward to reading your dissertation. It looks like it's going to be such an interesting one.
Yeah, I can see it says that deeper integration at the political level will lead to today's ethnic politics being swallowed by much larger populations, with any one group in Kenya being a small minority in the federated country. But that's true.
It's true.
While in Kenya we'll look at tribe A and tribe B, these are the largest tribes. When the political federation actually materializes and we actually become one country under one president.
Yeah.
You're a Luo, but so what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Somebody else is from actually in South Sudan and
they're also yeah, it's gonna be really cool. But I think the social and the psychological part is one of those things that we will also have to work with, because I'm not gonna get into that again. I mentioned who I'm dating, and all of a sudden, so from a regional point, we don't even know how things will look like. Also, let's talk about what is that?
Institutionalization of national political parties.
Thanks, Manze. I was about to bite my tongue when I was trying to say this. all political parties should be compelled to reflect the face of Kenya in ethnic, religious, regional, and gender terms.
Yeah. And I think so far so good, the political parties in Kenya are doing a good job.
Kona jokes.
They're trying. Okay, the two
Thanks.
major.
Much
Let me talk
better.
about the two major political parties, because there are other political parties that are really dominated by tribal.
Exactly. Nikienda nomination place flani na party flani, it's not about to happen.
No, you can get nominated. The point is nobody will even think about listening to what plans you have. Nobody will even think about listening to your manifesto if you're vying on a certain
Let me put
ticket
it better.
in a certain area.
Elsie, you go to assemble. You vie for
MC.
MCA, MP. But you're on a Jubilee party.
You need
Ticket.
jokes.
No one will even think about your credentials.
It's even better to go independent than to go with
a political party.
Yeah, as it is now, that is the situation. I'm not saying that's how it's supposed to be, but as it is now, afadhali hata uende with an independent ticket.
And that's why most of the times when this report is being read, I feel like these experts were talking about such a structural thing, and they haven't even been on the ground to understand what's happening. Fine, I've integrated all these other people in my party. Kuna wenye watakuja tu kujaza the numbers kwa sababu hata wakienda like sincerely look for a seat somewhere, they won't get it.
Yeah.
Mi sijui how to tackle.
But anyway, in terms of religious over here. Yeah, I think political parties are doing a good job.
To some extent.
They're trying at it.
They're really trying.
I've not heard of a case whereby so and so has been denied a chance in this party.
Have you been to Mombasa?
Because of the religion.
Exactly.
Mombasa?
Yes.
No.
Just look at it from demographics too, vizuri.
But
the last
Mombasa
time you saw someone, I mean, you would even get
but
it
I don't
from
think
a Mijikenda kind of lifestyle. You would get a seat more than you would get as a Christian. Aya.
I'm not aware.
We will do this research and we'll come. And if I'm wrong, I will say I am wrong. But you need to check these things and just see. You have to see. Even religious also, it's being tackled to some extent. I know it might be heavily seen in some certain regions, like if you go to the coastal region.
Maybe.
But all these other places, we
Nairobi, we never really,
think about
the
those
religion.
things a lot. Yeah.
You might even come to Endangi Church and, frankly.
Now, utapita.
Yeah, we don't care.
Then
gender terms.
That one has been, I heard you when I was coming in that you were tackling it to some extent, where we are now trying to force. Your boss is trying to force this 2/3 thing without qualifications, Indio?
Yeah, 2/3 gender rule that it has. That's something that we should already see. There was even a bill that was proposed, but it failed. At the National Assembly.
Hizi nzile na kuaga careful. Nasikia venye menyamaza juu feminist wata ni attack all of a sudden nikisema kitu wrong.
I won't attack you, relax. Yeah.
So
I think parties are also trying, because I remember when they were nominating, during nominations, whenever, after elections have happened, they normally have to nominate members to the Senate, to the National Assembly, these political parties. Most of the time they nominate now the ladies so that the ladies can try to, so with the ladies, that house can at least have that 2/3 representation.
True. I'm yet to figure out what women rep.
This whole 2/3 aspect is quite complicated, because how can we really achieve this, especially in a democratic country like Kenya is. A democratic country requires that everyone gets to vie for a seat from the same ground at the same level. You don't get an advantage just because you're a woman.
True.
So when we both go, me and Timo are approaching the Nairobi people to elect us as governor, I don't have a higher chance because I'm a woman.
Agenda.
No. Yeah. It is about now what we have, the agendas that we have, the plans that we have.
I think
so. You cannot force.
Really
Kakamega, you can only have women on the ballot. This time, men are not allowed. No, that is not democracy.
I think
so
the
it's quite
experts
complicated.
should really think about from a point of where we need to promote the role of a lady in terms of leadership and not make it look like just her work is in the
And
house.
not doing her a favor because she's a lady.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be that way.
It should really change. We have
Sini
less
Mugabe. I think Mugabe once made fun of us for that. I don't
Embarrassing.
know. You heard about it. Something about it. You only have women gossiping in parliament. Ama nini alisema.
I think I'll go check that out. That sounds so funny.
Yeah, I think.
But it's not just Mugabe alone. Look, we have less than a minute to tackle it. Producer will give me a bit like 5 more minutes. I'll try my best to. We'll see what we can do. But out of it all, I think it's not bad, but it just needs to be restructured with what they're trying to show in terms of national political parties. The last time we had this thing was the KANU era. KANU had offices all over this country. I don't think we have.
KANU Mama, KANU Baba, and today?
Nowadays.
And today, where are they?
But that was when it was a one-party state.
Yeah.
That was when this would have been possible. But now...
They have just remembered some Luo groups.
Yeah.
I remember. I think last week there was a picture that was trending, a picture of an ODM office that has been established in Kirinyaga. Wait, what? An ODM office in Kirinyaga? But anyway, we're coming up. That is us coming up higher. So what they are talking about when they talk about institutionalization of national political parties, their main recommendation is that as the government or as Kenyans, we need to strengthen the office of the registrar of political parties to enable it to deal with the problem of ethnicization of politics. And by immediately recruiting and appointing a substantive registrar who can be independent, assertive, and proactive.
It's true.
So they're calling him the referee of political parties.
He'll have a hard task on his hand. We need to work on what they are trying to base the political parties in terms of who they choose and how they choose, and switch this conversation back to the people so that they can actually see. But in the end, with stuff like the EAC becoming something realistic, this is some few things that will be able to be tackled to some extent. I don't know how, but I agree. A referee needs to be there from the point where political parties are being...
So to regulate the political parties and to ensure that these political parties, you're not... Anyway.
So that ODM, when they're opening an office in Kirinyaga, it doesn't look like...
a strange thing has happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a good one. This one is those ones we really need to tackle ourselves as Kenyans. I mean, these guys can give recommendations that are funny, so funny, council of advisors and all that. But ethnic antagonism and competition it comes from me and ULC. It's not really something that's structured that can be helped. I like that we are a new crop and a new generation that is allowing integration here at home first before even we get to that point. And we will work on it. I liked a conversation I had with my brother this week, and he was telling me some of these things that we are seeing in this report and we are seeing in this country just needs to be worked on slowly and surely. We tend to like a point where we are like microwaves. We want something to pop so fast, but some things are deeply rooted in us, and we need to remove them slowly. We'll be like the last people who actually... And he was like, if it takes 100 years, fine. But after those 100 years, the people can reap what was started from part one. And it's going to be a progressive thing. If we root out corruption, it's not something that will be just picked out. And
from one day to the next.
Yeah. It's something that we need to slowly work on. And I think ethnic antagonism and competition also is something that we need to work on slowly and surely. I don't know, maybe Mwalimu Nyerere had seen this from a long time ago when he was starting this whole community-based thing where Ujamaa was a big thing, because he knew if it was the borderlines were drawn from a point of tribes and where you came from, this would have been worse. What do you have to say? Last words as we finish.
My parting shot will be that, one, as Kenyans, we should stop being the puppets of these politicians, fighting our neighbors while behind behind closed doors, these guys are drinking tea, toasting together, drinking champagne, having fun, trading together. That is one. Two, I would on matters ethnic antagonism and competition. Why don't we just accept that, yes, I was born Luo, you were born Kikuyu, so and so was born Kamba. And that is the beauty of being a Kenyan. Why don't we just embrace it from... I'm looking at it from the perspective of... Remember this story from the Bible, Joseph and the coat of many colors. And, you really appreciate the rainbow, red, orange, yellow. Joseph loved his coat. That is the fabric of humanity, diversity. And diversity is... a fact of life. Diversity is everywhere. I mean, even right now we are celebrating that, in the US, the likely vice president, the candidate for vice president with Joe Biden is an African American stroke South Asian. So, diversity is something that it will always be there. We can't do away with that. We can't all be the same. There are people who will be short, somebody will be born low, there are people who will be black skinned, the other people will be light skinned. Let us embrace it. Embrace it positively and not as a tool to divide us as Kenyans.
Move away from voting blocks and all that. It's been a pleasure, guys. We'll see you next week. Maybe we have like 2 more just to go and we are done with this thing. So peace.